Well, welcome back to our Yankees podcast, Believe in the Bronx. Pete Caldera here at Yankee Stadium. Mike Stanton, three-time Yankees World Championship reliever, back in his Houston studios. Mike, how are you doing? How's the weather down in Houston?
Oh, well, summer in Houston, you're going to get one thing, and that's going to be heat. We got plenty of that. And we've had, I don't know, countless days of over 100 degrees. But you know what? We'll take this over the New York winter anytime.
Yes, right. And the Houston Astros are at Yankee Stadium this weekend, and for a four-game set. Interesting time. The trade deadline has come and gone. We saw in the American League East, Mike, the Blue Jays helped themselves. The Orioles helped themselves with pitching. Red Sox didn't do much. The Rays go and get Savali to help their rotation. The Yankees add a back-end reliever who is going to be a free agent at the end of this season in Middleton from the White Sox.
Right.
Crashing disappointment, predictable. How did you take what the Yankees did at the deadline?
I don't want to go either way. I'm going to stay on the fence, and it's not from a lack of trying. It takes two people to dance.
Right.
And so that Cashman was beating the bushes and on the phone and doing everything he could to try and help this team get better. But there just wasn't a whole lot out there to really bring in. Yeah, there's a bunch of teams that made moves, but it wasn't like, we just had countless guys that teams were looking to move. So I think it is a little disappointing. You're always hoping in a situation like this that you can help the team. But I think the other side of it is, the way the Yankees have played this year, especially at the trade deadline, only being a couple games over 500, being in last place, I think the writing was on the wall a little bit to say, okay, we're not going to sell the farm on a season that we're not even guaranteed to make the playoffs. They still have work to do just to get to the wild card.
Yeah, I mean, my take on that was that I think this, barring a move of significance, I mean, adding a Juan Soto or even a Cody Bellinger, there was not much that could help move the needle for this team.
Right.
If you're looking to add a rental player, I mean, like a Tommy Pham from the Mets, or even a reliever from the Mets, Brooks Raley, if they'd moved him, would have helped the team a little bit, but maybe not in moving the needle towards a deep October run. And
Right.
And there again is an indictment of what the team has been to this point, how they were constructed going into spring training, and how they played in the first half of this season. That that even a small move was not going to be anything of significance to move this team. What
Right.
they still need to have happen, and in 2 months, and it has to happen quickly, is for the players that they have that are getting well paid to do the job that they were paid to do.
And get healthy. I mean, that's a
healthy.
big part of it. Nestor Cortez is coming back. That might as well be a trade deadline acquisition. It's going to be an interesting game on Saturday tomorrow, because Justin Verlander is going to be back on the mound for the Houston Astros. So the two new guys to the roster, or the active roster of both of those teams, will pitch tomorrow. But you're right. There weren't very many players out there that was going to be a substantial move. But the other thing was, what is the asking price? Are you willing to give your top prospects for a guy that's going to be a rental?
Yep.
And for a team that's in last place, even above 500, still a team that's in last place, I don't know if you really wanted to do that. The guy to me was Cody Bellinger.
Right.
But the problem was, and they got a little bit of bad luck here. Good luck for the Cubs, bad luck for the Yankees, was that all of a sudden the Cubs started playing very well. They had a little winning streak, and
Right.
Cody Bellinger has had a tremendous bounce back season after really stinking for about 3 years. And I think the asking price was just entirely too high. And then right at the end, the Cubs said, "You know what? We're not selling anyways. We're going to be bringing guys in."
Right, and that'll be a free agent to watch going into 24 too. Mike, the other big news here, as we're taping this podcast on Friday, August 4th. Yesterday, August 3rd, we got clarity on why Anthony Rizzo for 2 months,
Yeah.
had an OPS under 500 and looked completely lost at the plate. Um, he was diagnosed with what they call cascading concussions symptoms, which date back to a play here at Yankee Stadium on May 28th. That's how far this goes back
Wow.
to. Frankly, Mike, I don't know what to make of this. Whether this was some negligence, maybe that's a harsh word, but on the part of the Yankees for overlooking the funk that Rizzo was in and
Hmm.
not because he passed Major League Baseball's standard concussion protocol when this initially happened, then got on a plane to Seattle to fly out for a series against the Mariners. Woke up, as he said, tired, but all the symptoms he said he felt were sort of in line, normal, in the range of, yeah, you fly cross country, you feel tired.
Right.
Um,
Sure.
the mistiming at the plate he thought was on him somehow to make adjustments because every player goes into a slump. He always found a way to adjust back. Just the timing and the rhythm weren't there. And then now lately, in the last week or so, uh, he had developed more of a fogginess, a sluggishness,
Hmm.
a feeling of, he called it, he termed it going to bed sober and waking up with a hangover, which
Okay.
led to them, when coming out of the Baltimore series, when they got back home on around August 1st, July 31st, to be tested neurologically. And then they found out that, yes, in fact, he did suffer a concussion at some point, which is probably traced to that play on May 28th. And
Right.
now he's been prescribed supplements, rest, and there is no timetable for his return to the Yankees lineup. Just curious what you make of that, Mike.
Yeah, that's to say it's concerning, I think, is a vast understatement. The fact that, to start off with, our medical field, as advanced as it is, we really don't still know a whole lot about concussions. Actually, the sport that is the leader in that research is actually hockey, and you can understand why with everything that happens on a hockey rink on the ice. But this is a little disconcerting, just simply because there wasn't a big traumatic injury. There wasn't, he didn't get hit in the head. There was the play back in May, but there wasn't a whole lot that went on with this. But it seems like the symptoms have slowly gotten worse. So that has to be a huge red flag. I got the pleasure of playing with the Giants in the end, I think 2006. Mike Matheny was on that team, and he was on the DL already. So I can't say I played with him because he
Right.
was already on the DL. But he had been on the DL for a couple months, and Mike, it was a foul ball off the mask that gave him his last concussion. And even at that point, several months down the road, he was still pretty messed up. He couldn't get his heart rate up at all, or it would mess up his inner ear, and he would be horizontal for 3 days, laying in bed, just simply because it just it
Yeah.
just messed him up, and that ended up ending Mike Matheny's playing career. Now, he's turned out to be a longtime manager, and I would love to talk to him to see if he still has any kind of symptoms or anything. It's
Right.
decade down the road, but it's just one of those situations that you just can't put your finger on it. Everybody heals a little bit different. And it can go back to even further than that, because one of the things that they have figured out is that concussions are accumulative. You don't
Yeah.
fully recover from a concussion. So if he had one years and years ago, that might be playing a factor in what's going on right now.
Yeah, at least for Rizzo's part, this isn't a situation where he's being, like with Matheny you mentioned. I mean, that was repeated, foul balls
Yeah.
to the mask, and then this was a
But it
one-time
was just one that put him on
that
that
put him
last
right.
time, and then that was it.
Yeah, as far as we know on Rizzo's case, this was just the one incident that, uh, and he was assured that from the doctors he spoke to, the neurology tests he went through, that this will rectify itself. He'll be
Mhm.
100%, but we just don't know when he's coming back and when he'll be
Yeah. Yeah.
allowed to come back. I mean, this could be potentially a season-ending injury. We just don't know at this point.
Yeah, and I think that's what the probably for Anthony and for for everyone involved, that it's kind of, when you have a knee injury, there's a protocol.
Right,
You know the steps that you have to take, and at the end, okay, I'm back on the field ready to go. But this isn't.
right,
It's really up to his body and how he heals, and how he can get that fogginess and get back his eye hand control, and get everything back where it needs to be. And there's just no timetable.
right,
It could be weeks, it could be much longer. We'll just keep our fingers crossed that it's not, because and because you got to remember, this isn't just a baseball thing. When you start talking about your brain, you're talking about a quality of life.
right,
So this is, we need to get Rizzo back as the human being. Then we can worry about the baseball part of it.
right. Just for on the field purposes, at first base, the Yankees will sort of play a right-left platoon with DJ LeMahieu
Hmm.
against lefties and Jake Bowers against righties. I would have thought that this was an opportunity, perhaps, for them to bring Oswald Peraza back up. This still could happen at some point, where
Sure.
you play Peraza at third, play LeMahieu mostly at first base, and then just put Bowers back
Right.
into his
And that
outfield
and that
role.
may be ultimately, Pete, that might be the where you ultimately end up. But right now they have, plan A, plan B. Hopefully they don't have to go to a C or D, but those plans are in place also. So for the right now, and again, this could change as quickly as, well, tomorrow.
Right.
They could just decide to go a different way. But they have the plan in place now, and we'll just have to see how it works out.
Right. The other uh, news involving the Yankees this week was Domingo German's situation.
Yeah.
He is not going to pitch for the rest of this year. There was an incident in the clubhouse earlier this week that involved him being disruptive, to say the least, and going into alcohol treatment. So, I mean, obviously, as you mentioned, in the case of the player, you worry about his well-being and his
Sure.
family and his situation first.
Right.
And I think that was clearly stated by the Yankees that whatever went on, I mean, they need him to get the help he needs to
Right.
to go on in life. So I mean that's number one.
Right.
Uh, and then what you're left with is, what does this do to the Yankees on the field? And what does this do, frankly, for the rest of Herman's career or his tenure with the Yankees?
Right.
He has one more year of control left. I mean,
Mhm.
you could make a very good case that he possibly has pitched his last game with the Yankees. This was a confounding player on the field when you think about the talent he had. A guy who pitched a perfect game not more than a month ago, and yet had an ERA of closer to 5 than
Right.
4. But right now, the Yankees, at least for their purposes on the field, can slot Nestor Cortes, as you mentioned, right back into the rotation coming off the
Mhm.
IL, and they'll still have a full 5-man complement of starters going into what is a very critical period for them.
This is not something that is new to Yankees fans. You remember years ago, CC Sabathia did this right before going into the playoffs, and just an incredible story. And CC has talked about that since retirement, and it's a pretty remarkable story. But yeah, just like with Rizzo and quality of life, this is a human being that obviously is going through something pretty severe in his life. So first you have to worry about, getting him back right and being a viable part of the clubhouse and of civilization before you can start talking about his baseball career. And I think that's really, you can't even Brian Cashman, you got to see what happens here. You have to see what kind of path he goes through, what he looks like, how he's handling himself after he does come back out of rehab. So what happens down the road right now, we'll just leave it down the road. Right now, we're worried about Domingo himself, his family, and just making sure that he gets the help that he needs.
Right. And then also on the comeback trail, in a few days, the Yankees will have Jonathan Loizaga back in their
There you
bullpen.
go.
He has not pitched since early April, had a bone spur removed from near his right elbow. So and they've liked what they've seen so far from just the live sessions he's had, the handful
Yeah.
of minor league rehab appearances he's had. So I mean, this could be a difference maker too. As you
Oh
mentioned,
yeah.
that you didn't add a real top end reliever to your team at the deadline. They did get Kenny Middleton from the White Sox, but he could be a difference maker down the stretch. But as we've mentioned before, and what has been the greatest problem on this team is the nightly struggle for runs, and having a different leadoff hitter
Yeah.
almost every day. Different guys in the cleanup spot, guys moving in and out of the clouds. You're seeing Giancarlo Stanton, maybe enter a hot streak, but you've seen that turn too. So just the streakiness of this lineup, and the fact that now Rizzo will be out of this lineup. Not that the Rizzo you saw the last 2 months was adding much to this, but
Right.
that's a significant part of your team that's missing too. So the Yankees are still looking at an uphill battle to score runs on a nightly basis here, Mike.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, if they were completely healthy, the situation they're in, they've got a mountain in front of them just simply because it's not just how many games back they are. I think you can pretty much say that the division is over. They're looking at the wild card,
Right.
but even the wild card, they have several teams that they have to leapfrog to get into one of those 3 wild card positions. So, yeah, even if they were completely healthy, they have a big mountain in front of them. But getting Loaizaga is a weapon in the bullpen. Now they're going to protect him. This isn't going to be a guy that's going to go back to back, maybe for the rest of this season. This is a big, big arm. He's, when he's right,
Yeah.
this is one of the dominant relievers in Major League Baseball. And, the bullpen is a strong suit like it usually is for the Yankees. So that's going to make, their strongest part of the game. It's going to make it stronger. But getting Cortez back is another big plus. Yes, we're in the same time frame as the trade deadline. So you can look at this as almost like an acquisition, even though that you already, he was already on the roster. But we saw how good Nestor can be last year. I mean, he was in the Cy Young Award race. So, I mean, this dude can really, really pitch when right. You just keep your fingers crossed that he is where he needs to be.
Right. Yankees about to go on a big road trip, but you're already hearing at Yankee Stadium the fire Cashman chants, which have been happening pretty regularly.
Yeah.
The consequences for manager Aaron Boone if this team doesn't make it to postseason. I think those are things we could probably get into with a little more detail next week, because the Yankees have a big road trip coming up. This is a 3-city trip coming up. First in Chicago against the White Sox. That's the softer part of this road trip. Then they'll be moving on to Miami to play the Marlins and Atlanta to play the Atlanta Braves. That's it's going to be another interesting series.
Must wins. I mean, when you're playing teams like the White Sox, the situation there, they cannot afford to give away any wins. They need, the offense it's kind of is what it is. I mean, you're gonna. I'm not really that fond of that statement, but there's not going to be any big changes there. You just need some guys like Giancarlo. He's at back-to-back home runs. His home run last night in the first inning was a big part of the win against the Astros in Game 1 of this 4-game series. So, you look, maybe he is, and he pulled the ball. And he destroyed that baseball over 114 miles an hour. Maybe he is starting to get hot, and that's what they really need. They have some guys that have some resume. They have. You look back at their baseball card. There's dudes on this team that can hit. They just haven't. And what you hope is they can kind of get on a little bit of a roll here and start winning some baseball games and at least scare the rest of the league.
Yeah, they need them more than ever now. It's the 2-month. Sprint to October here, but
it's not about the long haul anymore. Now it's about getting hot.
That's right. We'll resume this conversation on the road. Mike, thanks very much. Good to see you again, and thanks for joining us, everyone, and we'll see you down the road.